as the queen. I'm known as the queen of metaphors, so we have a little metaphor here. So if you think about an operational home, what we have here is, first you have an architect that designs the house. And that is like the content strategist who comes up with a strategy for what the goals are. So what does the architect do? They say, okay, you've got this many people, the land is like this, it's got maybe there's like a hill, so you have to build against the hill, and you've got this many people living in a house, and oh, maybe one person's in a wheelchair, so oh, we're not going to build stairs. They build it to be very operational for whoever's going to be living there. Then you give it to some contractors who actually build the house. So this would be like doing your implementation of whatever your system is. And then you live in the house. So the residents in the house would operate in the house. So you live there in comfort. So, you would have maybe a living room and a kitchen and so on. And you're not going to put kitchen elements in the living room so that you have to run back and forth. You're not going to spread things all over the place that makes it impossible to work efficiently. You set up the kitchen, and any of the women on the call will know if they've moved into a place, whether it's been designed by someone who actually uses a kitchen, because you can see how, maybe the way the refrigerator opens the door and it's in the way of the stove, and you've got, all these things that are put together in a way that maybe look nice, but are not very useful. So we want to get away from that. And we want to say we need an operational model that really helps us do our work. So if I were to define ContentOps, so content operations is a set of principles, because we can't have a prescription, because none of our workplaces work the same way, but it's a set of principles that we use to optimize content production. So it's not really about having better content, because you could still have crappy content, you just deliver it faster. But the implicit part of it is that if you aren't spending so much time, copying and pasting and attaching things and sending them around and looking for who has which version in their Google Drive and are they on vacation this week, if you don't spend your time doing that, you can spend more time on the quality of your content, like the high value tasks. So it's to optimize content production so that you can leverage your content as a business asset to meet your business objectives. So the reason we produce content is because somehow it contributes to the product. And if we want to make that content treated as an asset, then content has to be seen as a value chain, just like code is a value chain and all these other pieces are a value chain. So we have content as a value chain, and we want to optimize how we produce it. So just the way you have DevOps to make your code better and more reliable and so on, so we want to do the same thing for content. So the commonalities, and I looked at many, many, many operational models. So we have explicit and implicit commonalities. Explicit would be how we think of content ops amongst ourselves. So we want to ensure resource availability. Do we have enough people at any given time? Like, are we producing it in a way where if you needed to parachute in a couple more people, that they could do it, or that you could absorb extra tasks if you needed to temporarily? We want to reduce inefficiencies, automate wherever possible, develop repeatable processes. Again, if you needed to bring someone in, can you hand them the process and they understand it, or is it a little woo-woo? Allow scaling, the scalability. We want to monitor results, and from those results, we want to create more insights so that we put that into our next iteration of content. But then there's the implicit things that are commonalities, and these are things that I would say, if you were talking to management, you wouldn't particularly use this language, you would use this language here, which is about information enablement. Activate strategy to drive value, improve your collaboration across value streams. And that's kind of this is how we sneak in content as a value stream, is if you want to improve collaboration across value streams, you have to recognize that content is a value stream, first of all. Automating the continuous delivery pipelines. if you were working with an agile team and you know you have to produce content within the sprints alongside them, that's part of that. Improving innovation is more general, and managing risks through compliance, that is, for regulated industries. So when you talk about those are kind of the loftier goals, if you will, and that's a good way to talk to your management about it. So we're not really going to worry about those right now. What we're going to do is think about the explicit part and some of the business drivers. So and if you want to take a screenshot of this, it might help you when you're doing your exercise. I look at these as 6 core business drivers, and everything else is a subset of this. So either a company wants to increase revenue, and to do that, you need to synchronize across all your publication channels. Maybe you want to manage risk, so you need a better audit trail. Maybe you want to expand, your company wants to expand into new markets, so you need to be able to personalize for those markets. The easy example is 110 versus 220 if you have something with a plug. So you need to, that's one form of personalization, if you will, or doing something in another language, that's also personalization. They might have this goal of building brand trust. So you need more accurate content, trustworthy content, so that your clients trust you. When you think about API documentation, when they look at competitor A and competitor B, and it's really easy to use their APIs, and their API documentation is a disaster, the choice becomes simpler for them. And they want to operate with more efficiency. So you want to be able to streamline and scale. So everything else is just a subset of this, in my opinion. So here's the exercise. We're going to go into your breakout rooms, and I want you to think about the ways that your operating model for content could be improved in your organization, and get really specific. So you don't have that like, oh, we want to be able to scale. It's like, we've got 3 new product lines coming, and we are freaking out about how we're going to do it, right? And so think about the things that you could do to streamline your operations. So I imagine a lot of you are using some sort of a tool, a CCMS or a help authoring tool, or some sort of authoring system. But if you're not, then that could be one of those, the obvious ones is like, we want to automate our workflow because we could save 8 steps. Because there are 8 steps that we do for each piece of content that we wouldn't have to do anymore. And then after you do that, then we're going to do this before and after comparison of at least 5 items. And I'm going to give you some ideas, and this can help you figure out how you want to talk about it in your group. So here are some ideas. So we could say, right now, for us, it's really hard to find where our content is stored. And so when we go to update it, that adds a whole bunch of time onto the production process. But instead, we want to have the content kept in a central repository with a good taxonomy. So I can just search and it will tell me all of the content for this product. Another idea could be, we can't easily tell if we have the right version to update it. So we would say, oh, we want version control, automated version control, so that we can just tag things, and then we know what belongs with which version, and so on. So reuse is hard. We want to make it easy by doing a single source. We use spreadsheets. We have 49 spreadsheets to track it where content gets used. It's like, well, actually, if we had a dashboard where all of this content reuse was tracked, we wouldn't, we would save so much time. So each of you are going to have different situations and different examples. I'm going to leave this slide up if you want to be able to see it or to screenshot it. But now we can go into the rooms, 15 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll do kind of a group discussion about what you discovered in the exercise and how how many ideas you came up with and how we can share that to help each other. So does that sound like an idea? And
Yes.
I don't know if you can switch me between rooms so that I can spend a bit of time with one group and a bit of time with the other group.
Well, there's not too much time left, I'm afraid, because now we only have 10 minutes left and 10 minutes to debrief also. So
okay, well, maybe we could split it like 12 and 2, 12 minutes. Let's go.
12.
Yeah, let's start the rooms, Patricia. So we've got 33 participants. So maybe about like 8 groups, I think will work.
8 groups?
Yeah.
Do you want
Yes.
really 8 groups? Because 8 groups is going to be only 3 or 4 participants per group. Is it what you want?
All right, so 6 groups, 6 groups.
6 groups is about 5 to 6 participants per groups. Is it okay?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's a
and
good
we've got
size.
people who decided to stay, so I think we're pretty sure people are here.
Okay, so I'm creating the groups and see you in 10 minutes or a quarter of an hour, 15 minutes. Marie, what do you think?
12 minutes.
Sorry?
12 minutes was the deal.
12.
12
Okay.
minutes.
12 minutes. You coming back in 12 minutes. Okay.
shifting documentation from Confluence, documentation that was written by 30 to 40 developers into AsciiDoc and using AsciiDoctor and using automation. So yeah,
So
I mean,
it seems Petra is the automation queen. So we didn't have a lot of problems to solve because she had already gone in and solved a lot of them, which is kind of nice.
I mean, I think it's always harder when you start new, right? When you are a new tech writer and you come to a company and they want to work that you work miracles there. I think with the experience, a lot of and seeing a lot of different types of documentation and companies from different backgrounds, I think you then will get some best practices in your head, and it makes it easier than when you start, and when you're fresh from university. So
great. Who's someone from the next group? Group 2?
Oh yeah, that was us, I think. Hi everyone.
Okay.
So yeah, we talked about, I was with Oana and Prishka, and we talked about a few things. There were 2 points mainly that we covered in during the session. It was the first one is reuse. For example, in my company, we're working a lot with Markdown and automation. And the thing is, it's not as efficient for reuse as data could be, for example. Like, for example, if I want to reuse a table or if I want to reuse a short description, it's currently not on point, I'd say. And one solution could be for short descriptions, for example, to put them in the metadata part of our Markdown documents and then reuse them across our portal. It's still something we have to experiment with, and we'll see. And I think Prishka talked about, I can't remember. I think it was versioning, if you want to talk about that, Prishka.
Yeah, I was exactly saying that in my company, there is no software that allows us to reuse our content, and we don't have any possibility to do versioning for the moment. So the solution would be to look for a software that could help us to use content again and to do versioning. And that was all for our group.
Okay. No, those are very good points, and those are very common ones. Yes. Group 3. I'm try to get through everybody before the magic time, cutoff time. Group 3.
To be honest, I don't remember which number.
Because I switched people that were alone in one group in another group, so it may be the next group. So please take the floor if you wish.
Okay, maybe I can speak for the group we had Barbara and Beltran and Maya and Torion. I think that was the whole group. We discussed the difficulty to access the databases where you can find content, and one of the solutions was to reuse existing content as a workaround. Then there were, when you manage to syndicate the content and put everything together, there are questions about ownership of documentation, and a struggle to manage rights when the content is shared. And so that took us to synchronizing the methods and the ways of working, so that people don't rediscover the wheel all the time in the way they work. And then that took us to cultural divides in the way people work. So that went quite far. And finally, we talked about having the documentation stored locally, and then IT takes care of delivering it to clients. And that is something that is not working. And the ideal would be to have a continuous delivery system where the repository, the documentation repository, is available to clients. And we talked about GitLab for doing that. And people in the group don't hesitate to chime in if I missed anything.
Well, thank you. We've got time for one more person to speak, I think. Maybe two, depending on how fast it is. So whoever wants to come off of mute and speak.
Yes,
so I guess I'll talk for group 5. So we had a little discussion on the aspect for the different kind of setup you had in different companies, ranging from kind of multinational to kind of something which is much smaller, and the challenge of those companies that would grow just by acquiring other companies, and how would you manage things where you have your own system in place, and then the new company that you just brought is bringing some new tools and other techniques and hopefully some guidelines and so on. So how do you harmonize that? How do you get to know each other, and the need for kind of a global organization that will manage the whole technical communication field, just to make sure that we are all on the same page and we are going to the same on the same path, and building on the synergy that you could use, making sure that you gain some visibility, and hopefully that TechCom, which is sometimes left a bit on the side, gets to be seen as bringing some value, as opposed to being a cost. Like we need to produce, and it's just a cost, and it doesn't allow us to kind of sell our kind of product at a higher price. It's just a need, and that's it. And that was interesting discussion on the different setup and how would you do.
Great, thank you. Thank you. So we're at 10:29, so right on track. And Patricia, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Rahel, for hosting those different conversations. So